this is something new that Google's rolling out. They've established these systems, and each system will be updated at least 5 to 6 times every year. And that's in addition to standalone one-off updates as well as core updates. So far in 2023, the only thing we've experienced is updates to the pre-existing systems and a core update. And I should note that at the time of this recording, we're already fairly past due for a core update. So I expect that probably within the next 2 to 3 months, we will be receiving a large core update, which, if you're unfamiliar with core updates and what they affect, it mostly pertains to your EAT score.
Hello, friends. Welcome back to the CarrotCast podcast. I'm your host, Brady Winder, and today I've got my guest, returning guest, friend, coworker with me, Bryan Sekine. How you doing, Bryan?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am heading out on vacation tomorrow to a lake in the middle of nowhere, and so I am full of anticipation.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds good.
It's going to be good, man. Everybody, today we're talking about the state of SEO and AI. We're recording this July 26, 2023, and by tomorrow, everything we will have discussed about AI will be completely out the window. I'm half kidding. But it's changing at a rapid pace, and there's a lot of questions around SEO, AI, ChatGPT. Is it making it harder to rank in Google? Is it going to be easier? You know, what's happened with the algorithm? There's a lot of things. So we're going to be talking about what this means for you if you're putting time, energy, effort into SEO, and we're going to be giving some practical use cases for how to use ChatGPT and how to not use ChatGPT, where you should and shouldn't be using it in your business. So it's going to be a fun podcast. I hope you enjoy it. If you want to watch the video version, we will be doing a short, tiny little bit of screen share towards the end, but you can check it out at carrotcast.com. But anyways, let's get into it, Bryan. One of the things I think is top of mind for me right now is Google Search Labs. So we've been, specifically Trevor's been predicting for the last year or two that Google's moving towards this idea of one search result. It is serving people one search result, because really, as far as user experience, when you Google something, you want, like in a lot of cases, you want the one truthful right answer. You don't want to have to scrub through 12 articles to get the information you know. And so Google's been heading that way for a long time, but Google Search Labs seems to be the proof of concept for this. We've seen like snippets in Google Search Labs. So the question in my head when this popped up was like, what does this mean for our members? What does this mean for people doing SEO? Is this going to make it harder because now only one person, gets at the top of the rankings? What do you think of this? What does this mean for people doing SEO? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, so when Google finally announced Search Labs, I actually had a big sigh of relief, because it lets me know that Search Labs is providing their AI results in the same way that Bing/ChatGPT is doing the same thing. And so that's to say that they're using structured data to pull that information in. And the nice thing is that with Search Labs, they're not just providing one result. It may sort of seem like that because they generate a summary in that paragraph of text. But to the right-hand side, you'll see at least 3, and there's actually more if you click on the arrow, but there's at least 3 results that show up as the cited references for the generated answer. And then at the bottom, they have something else that is kind of like a ask additional questions, but this is all being pulled from the people also ask box, which is structured FAQ data. So from an SEO perspective, that's fantastic news, because that tells us that there are at least 6 different references for every one answer. So for optimization purposes, you actually have 6 different opportunities to rank for the one Search Labs query. And so for me, I think that's going to make it easier in terms of SEO to rank in the top position, especially if you previously struggled with getting into the top 10 or getting on the first page of Google results. This gives you a new opportunity to now compete for those top positions, as opposed to having to fight with the, let's say, national level competitors, right? They're usually the ones that hold down the top 3. So if you're not running paid ads and you're not ranking the top 3, this gives you a new opportunity to now rank using Search Labs.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm going to share my screen really briefly here, but if y'all check this out. I've Googled sell my house for cash, Roseburg, Oregon. So it's a local term. It's what a lot of motivated sellers are searching for. And, you know, you've got a generative AI is experimental, info quality may vary. And you've got one sentence from Google at the very top. It says, there are many places to sell your house for cash in Roseburg, Oregon, including real estate agencies, real estate consultants, and places that buy houses. If you've listened to any of our content on Google business profiles, real estate consultant is the service category you want to set if you're a real estate investor, or especially if you're a hybrid. And so what's interesting, just like Bryan mentioned, the three featured pages that it pulls from, 2 out of 3 of them are carrot sites. We have We Buy Houses, Robert and Ricky Grand, Grand Real Estate Investing out of Eugene, the Beckham Agency, who's a hybrid investor here in Roseburg, and then another one that's close by. But yeah, there's a lot more options as opposed to like one person getting that featured snippet. Bryan, you want to talk about how EAT applies to this right here? Yeah, I think that like people providing more helpful, unique content gives them a better chance of getting into these AI featured snippets.
Yeah, absolutely. So just as a quick recap, the EAT acronym stands for expertise, experience, authority, and trust, or trustworthiness. And so that's basically talking about your reviews on Google Business Profile. It's talking about your about page. It's talking about the lived experiences that you're sharing within your content. And it's talking about the trust that your website builds and brings to the table whenever Google goes to pull that information for its generative AI results. So it's really important that you are adding things like testimonials to your website, that you're working and putting effort into gaining reviews. It means that you're customizing your content on your website, and it means that you're putting pictures and stories and stuff on your about page. It's really, really important. And EAT is something that Google has publicly said that is built into every single search that goes through Google. So it's
Mm.
not something that you should glaze over. It's something that you should really spend time to put a lot of emphasis on.
Okay. So in other words, it's like we've talked about before. It's continually getting harder to gamify, but easier for the people who are the experts, who are the trust authorities, who are creating unique content.
Yes, absolutely. And
Okay.
another benefit to a lot of the members that are listening to this podcast is that it's harder for larger national corporations to build their EAT scores
Mm.
because they are less likely to have a face behind the brand. They're less likely to be able to customize every single piece of content they're publishing. Like, let's say, even if they have a full content team, they're probably using AI to generate a lot of that content now, right? Just to keep up with other major tech companies. But they're not spending the time to make sure that content's helpful. They're not spending time to make sure that their about pages and their contact pages are easily found and that they are responding to customers. They may not be responding to reviews on the Google Business Profile. So there's a lot of ways in that the smaller businesses can actually overtake the larger businesses in terms of their EAT scores.
Yeah, I don't have proof and data readily available to like show a case study for this, but we've been seeing and feeling the same thing with like Zillow is what you're talking about, like massive company, massive content teams, and their SEO strategy is their all these individual pages for cities and counties and towns, and so but they're not personalized. So it's becoming easier for someone who's an expert in Douglas County, Oregon, to get that ranking instead of Zillow just with a quote unquote SEO optimized page for Douglas County, Oregon. Somebody who
Right,
knows the
exactly.
market. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, so tell me about what other changes we've seen just throughout the year, from January to now. We've got EAT. Tell me about helpful content system and how helpful content has changed in Google's algorithm.
Yeah. So in last year, in Q3 and Q4, we heard about the helpful content update and the spam link update. But in 2023, we started hearing more of these updates, and now they're calling them systems. And so a lot of people were really confused about the difference in terminology between an update and a system. So just to make sure we clear the understanding here, systems are now part of what was previously known as the helpful content update or the spam link update. Those have turned into a full system that's incorporated into the ranking systems. So they will no longer be a single one-off update. It's going to be multiple smaller updates that happen throughout the year. So that's why in February and in March, we heard announcements about another helpful content update or another spam link update. And a lot of people are probably thinking like, well, didn't we just have that like in October of last year or in August of last year? And so this is something new that Google's rolling out. They've established these systems, and each system will be updated at least 5 to 6 times every year. And that's in addition to standalone one-off updates as well as core updates. So far in 2023, the only thing we've experienced is updates to the pre-existing systems and a core update. And I should note that at the time of this recording, we're already fairly past due for a core update. So I expect that probably within the next 2 to 3 months, we will be receiving a large core update, which, if you're unfamiliar with core updates and what they affect, it mostly pertains to your EAT score.
Mm.
If you do a lot of work on your EAT score stuff, it's only going to show a return on that investment during a core update. So a lot of people are either putting it off till the last minute, or they're working on it a few times per month, kind of passively.
Mm.
Versus if they're fixing their technical SEO or their backlink building or their content generation, that's something they're doing more actively all year round.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, putting work into your testimonials, your EAT score in advance. Um, for y'all listening, we've got a really good podcast we did a few months ago with Keith Sant and Bo Hollis on getting testimonials and reviews and what to do with those. Because a lot of people get overwhelmed. Like, how do I capture it? What do I ask? Should I do a video? Just a text? Like, what do I need? What's the bare minimum? Where do I put it on my website? So we did a full podcast on that. It's at carrot.com/convert. You can check it out there, or we'll put a link in the show notes as well. But yeah, get a video, get a tech review, put it in your Google Business Profile, put it on your website for sure. Yeah, definitely something you need to do to stay ahead of the game there. You mentioned the spam link system from last year. Let's talk about spammy reviews. And you had mentioned before we hit record on the podcast, Google review velocity, because the thing that's been top of mind for me is like with AI, fake reviews. I feel like I see more fake reviews and stuff every day. Like products that I'm looking for, services that I'm looking for. There's just like these garbage fake reviews everywhere. It's just like, um, it's insane how many there are. So in your eyes, how does this affect, I guess, any word of caution to people getting fake reviews, or maybe not even AI generated reviews, but like reviews from um, people that they haven't done business with on their Google business profile and on their website? I feel like tech companies are behind the 8 ball on this right now. And there's a lot of people that aren't getting caught, that are getting away with it right now. It's like, sweet, we can get
Yeah,
reviews and gamify it, you know?
sure. Yeah, I mean, just about any method of gamifying SEO is bound to fail at some point because Google is very actively trying to combat that. But one of the things that I will say about reviews specifically is that there is such a thing that Google monitors called review velocity, and that is the rate at which your business receives reviews, not your total amount of reviews, but how frequently does this happen. So, for example, if you typically receive one review per month and then next month you receive 200 reviews, that's going to immediately set off a red flag for Google. And they're going to have one of their employees actually review your Google business profile and read through each and every one of those reviews. And if they suspect anything that may be, spammy or like disingenuine, then they'll go ahead and flag the whole lot for that month.
Mm.
So there have been reports of SEOs who are working on Google business profiles saying, hey, this profile has just been flagged and now they've deleted, quote unquote, deleted all of the reviews. They're not actually deleted. They're just not publicly visible. So it looks as though all those reviews just disappeared overnight. And sometimes Google misses the mark on flagging that, and they will flag real reviews. But it takes months and months and months to be able to get that back. And some SEO agencies, they actually specialize in this, in sort of regaining lost reviews that are genuine.
So
But
you're saying so Google is conservative and they're quicker to take down reviews than they are not.
yes, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But they are also very aware when someone does receive a lot of like a sudden spike in reviews. And it's the same process they detect for backlinks. So if your website normally gets like 20 backlinks a month and then you get 400 backlinks in a different month, they're going to flag it. And they're going to say, okay, these are likely all spammy. And it might benefit your website for a month or two, but shortly after that, it's all going to fall back off again. It's going to start slowly dragging down your rankings. It's going to slowly devalue the rest of the backlinks your website has. So just in general, reviews and backlinks, you really need to pay attention to the rate at which you receive them, the velocity. So it's not just about like, oh, cool, I have 40 backlinks, but if I get 100 next month, is that going to be a sudden spike? It's going to be an unnatural appearing spike.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are getting away with this, like either fake AI generator reviews or people that they haven't done business with. And it's interesting because like as a human, you can usually tell which ones are illegitimate versus legitimate reviews just by glancing at them. And so I feel like AI is not like Google's AI is not too far away from being able to catch up to a human being able to detect that. Okay, so the next thing I want to ask you about, Bryan, is about ChatGPT and AI. And everybody watching and listening, I'm going to call out the elephant in the room. I just changed scenery, and my audio just changed a little bit. We had an interruption on our last podcast, and we had to switch gears. I'm in another state, another room, and we're finishing out this episode here. But apologize for the little bit of change in consistency, but we're going to wrap up this episode here. Anyways, that being said, Bryan, let's talk about ChatGPT. I think a lot of people have different opinions when it comes to ChatGPT, and I think the real question is it going to make SEO easier or harder?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it's totally valid. Unfortunately, the answer is not simple and straightforward. I think it's going to be both. I think if you use ChatGPT in the right ways, in what it's good for, it could make SEO a lot easier. I think that if you use ChatGPT for things that it's not inherently good at, and we'll go over this in just a second, I think it's going to make SEO a lot more difficult because you're going to be basically spinning your wheels and not seeing any kind of progress with it, even though other people on YouTube, other people in social media are claiming that ChatGPT generated content is just crushing it in SEO right now. There's not a lot of data to back that up. Even Google has come out and said, hey, we don't punish content producers for using AI outright, but we don't inherently reward that either. The content still has to be helpful. The content still has to be written for people first and not search engines first. And so, with that in mind, I think there are a lot of use cases for ChatGPT, but it's going to be a lot more fragmented than just typing in, like, write me a blog post about selling a house in forbearance in Florida, right? Like, you're not going to get the finished product in one click. AI is not there yet. So I would say a few of the things that ChatGPT is good at doing is doing content summarization. So if you are doing some research with your competitors about what you should write next, ChatGPT is really good at analyzing a body of text and summarizing that for you. And to that extent, that makes ChatGPT excellent at creating social media posts based off of the content you've already written. So if you just want a quick tweet, if you just want to promote your most recent blog post on Facebook and you just want to get a little snippet for it, ChatGPT is perfect for that kind of stuff. It's also really good at creating content outlines. So this is the one that I use probably the most often, where I say, write me an outline for a blog post about blank, and then it's going to shoot out a bulleted list. And then you can add certain quotes or prompts to that or take away depending on what it is you're trying to get. So maybe one of the prompts is a little bit too generic and you want it to go a little bit deeper. You can say, elaborate on this point, and it will give you even more information about it. Now, these are great for curing writer's block or for getting started, but I wouldn't say that you should then have ChatGPT write every paragraph after that, because you want the content to be unique and you want it to be written for humans. And if it's something specific, especially in the real estate industry, there's going to be certain legal ramifications. There's going to be certain permits that are needed. There's going to be a certain level of expertise for each individual city and state that I think that's where the investor really gets to shine. That's where you get to add your own perspective. And that's what's going to make the content rank.
So I want to pause real quick here, Brian, and dive a little bit deeper into using ChatGPT and AI for blog posts. So one thing you and I and team members have been trying out behind the scenes is using ChatGPT to rewrite portions of Carrot's content packs, the blog
Yeah,
posts that you get with certain
definitely.
memberships. Yeah, and so even with that, it can do a really good job when prompted correctly. Um, but you still need to add that final touch, and still a human being right now at least still needs to go through it, make sure it all makes sense. Um, the interesting thing on that is I feel like we still can always clarify duplicate content and how to avoid duplicate content. You know, with these content packs, the last thing you want to do is copy and paste them straight onto your Carrot site and just post them as is.
Right.
Those are intended to be a starting point to
Yeah.
give you the ideas, the framework, the outline, and the right topics, because the topics that motivated sellers want to search for, that's crucial that you're doing the right topics and keywords. So
Yes.
anyways, yeah, just to dial down on that, we have content that goes deeper on that, but we found it to be really useful for like, hey, take this blog post, rewrite at least 30% of it, 30 to 50% of it. And the percentage is key because sometimes ChatGPT has a hard time with like word count or characters.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Rewrite this portion of the content, and then using this tone or using this personality as a reference. Those are some of the harder things to finesse with ChatGPT right now, but given the right prompt, it's actually pretty good at rewriting portions of that blog post and maintaining the the overall gist and the right keywords for that post.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is a good call out. I would say, yeah, that's one of I think ChatGPT's biggest downfalls is that because it's generative AI, it doesn't know how many words it's going to produce until it finishes with the response. So you can't say
Yeah,
like, give me 150 characters, like for a tweet, for example, give me 150 characters about a blog post summary for blank, and it's going to overshoot that almost every time because it doesn't know what the answer is going to be before it finishes generating it. So yeah, the
right.
percentage is really key there. So you can say, here's the text that I want you to rewrite, and then rewrite upwards of 50%, and it'll be okay, boom, done.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, or like follow-up prompts. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, now take what you've done and change this about it. That's the part that about ChatGPT that's really cool is that's where you can get lazy. Like I did one today for a YouTube description. I was like, okay, now add in emojis, you
Right.
know, shorten it. That's it. The
Yeah, yeah,
follow-up prompts are a little bit less work.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then one of the things I wanted to mention is that there are some categories that ChatGPT is particularly bad at. So obviously, it's not great at current events because ChatGPT was capped, I think, at 2021. And it's also not great at anything that needs to be 100% factual. So there's a phenomenon happening that we call hallucinations in the AI world, and that's where ChatGPT will spit out an answer that it feels very confident about, but is not factually correct. So make sure that you check your sources with a lot of that. And then also, ChatGPT is not good at high level strategy. So if you were to go in there and say, what should I do to increase my rankings for SEO? It's going to give you just very, very generic SEO advice. I would not recommend using it for any kind of SEO strategy. It's also not super great at understanding the context. Now, ChatGPT 4 is better than 3.5 in terms of understanding the context, but you really have to sort of engineer the right prompt in order to get the right context for some of the responses that you're looking for. And
Mm.
then also, it's AI, so it doesn't understand emotional intelligence. And I think a lot of investors out there, when talking about content writing, they may not be able to tap into, or they're not tapping into the emotional intelligence component of it as much as they could be, especially for things like forbearance or fire damaged houses. Like if you can really sort of relate to your ideal client or someone who has recently had a fire damaged house, that can be a very traumatic experience. And so writing a blog post using ChatGPT and not adding that emotional intelligence of like, hey, you just went through something really difficult. You may have just lost things that had immense amounts of sentimental value. So let me help you figure out how to, get back on your feet, as opposed to being like, here's the paperwork you can fill out. We'll buy your house and the questions asked, blah, blah, blah. Like it completely removes the emotional component of it.
Mm.
And so I
The
think for
empathy.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So I think for a lot of the situation or like niche topics, like flood damage, fire damage, divorce, or inheritance. Like there's an emotional component, a very human component that ChatGPT will never really pick up on. That I think is important for investors to call out in the blog posts.
Yeah. And people that they have, worked with, instead of it being,
Right.
hey, we can't help you, where it's all theory,
Yeah.
saying we have helped, house sellers in forbearance or this specific situation, putting testimonials in there and kind of weaving in your experience and your story can be really powerful.
Yeah.
So in
100%.
summary, ChatGPT is not great at empathy right now, at least. In August of 2023. It might change in September. We'll see.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, cool. I think that's about all we had to talk about, state of SEO and how AI is changing SEO. I wanted to give people a couple of prompts just to kind of round it out. And feel free to comment on these or share any feedback on these, Brian. But we put together a guide recently, 21 ChatGPT prompts for real estate investors. We released it for the Carrot Summit we had a few weeks back. It's not available right now, and I can't wait to find some way to give it away to y'all. So if you missed it at the summit, I'm sorry, but I wanted to give you a couple of the prompts from it. One of the ones that we had in there was rewriting stock Carrot blog content. Okay, so one of the ones we have is rewriting Carrot blog posts. So the prompt is acting as a real estate investor from insert city and state, so Roseburg, Oregon. Rewrite at least 50% of this blog post. The tone should be professional yet friendly and maintain the same approximate length of the post. So that's when you can use one we've tested. An interesting note is, I don't know if you've seen this too, Brian, but you can use the same prompt with ChatGPT and get varying results,
Yeah.
based on I don't know what that's based on, but some of it's like a new thread versus a previous thread where you've already taught it some things.
Right.
So like I used that today, and then it didn't give me what I wanted, so I started a new thread with ChatGPT where I didn't know anything. Um, and then another one was writing an about us section. This is something that people really struggle with.
Mm.
So you could say, act as a real estate investor from Roseburg, Oregon, from ABC House Buyers. Write an about me that includes my core values, unique value proposition, and years of experience. The target audience is someone who wants to sell their home fast. Write it in no more than 1,500 characters. And that you might need the 1,500 character part in a follow up, but that gave us a pretty good about at least a draft for it. Got us like 80% of the way there, where you can go in and change it.
Nice.
We've got some on blog post outlines. One more I want to share with y'all that I've been using like crazy lately for our videos at Carrot is for YouTube chapters. So we're talking SEO. A lot of people are like uploading testimonials or things to their website, and they're not doing any sort of optimization of the videos themselves on YouTube, which is like serious low hanging fruit. Here's a prompt that I use for automatically creating chapters that go in the description and create the timestamps where you can click through the timeline. Super easy. So if you go to YouTube, click the three dots under the video and click show transcript, copy that whole transcript, and then throw it into this prompt in ChatGPT. It goes like this. Using the following transcript from a video, outline the 5 to 10 most important highlights. Include timestamps for each highlight when each topic is covered. Optimize the chapters to rank in search for the term, insert term here. That part I've had mixed results with. But do not include the word chapter in the text. Do not include quotations in the timestamps. Make each chapter a maximum of 15 characters. Format each highlight by listing the numerical portion first, followed by the maximum 15 character highlight. Then on a new line below, include the description sentence. So I wanted to share that with you all so you can really understand like how detailed you might need to get sometimes with ChatGPT. I've been using that for my videos. It does 80% of the work for me as opposed to scrubbing through video manually. I still go through and check those timestamps because sometimes they are off for no apparent reason. So yeah, that's made my job a lot easier. Any thoughts on prompts, Brian, or anything that you're using it for right now that you want to mention?
No, I think that's great. One of the things that I'm using ChatGPT for a lot is for schema markup.
Oh yeah.
So my favorite one is for FAQs because just about every website could benefit from an FAQ section or even a whole dedicated FAQ page. And while those are helpful, if you can add the schema markup to let Google know definitively that it is an FAQ, you'll see a lot better ROI on that information. And so basically there's a prompt that says generate FAQ schema and then you provide the question and then the answer, and then it just shoots out the script that is inherently a JSON file, and then you just add the script wrapper to it, which is just the beginning and end part. And then you can copy and paste that onto your website. And you can do that on an individual page. You can do that on just a section of a page, depending on how your website is set up. If you're a Carrot member and you go into your piece of content at the very bottom, there's a window where you can add, I think it's labeled custom tracking code, but that's basically any kind of HTML that you want to put into the header. So you can put your FAQ schema there and it will show up. And so that's the one that I've been using the most often, because while it does have to be like hand generated each time, it's a lot faster to do it through ChatGPT than to try to do it through a plugin or to try to do it through a JSON file upload. Just makes the whole process lightning fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys want to see screenshots of that and a real example of it, go to our blog, carrot.com/blog, and we've got a blog post on 8 or 9 ways to use ChatGPT as a real estate investor. We've got it there. So what Brian's talking about, the schema, if you're not familiar with it, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, this is basically just what your website or what a page or a post needs to have in it in order to show up as Google snippets. Like when you search something in the Google, you have it show up at the top of the search results, and it's not a standard search results. It's broken apart into different sections. Right?
Exactly.
Okay. So you guys have seen this for restaurants or services, or like a multitude of answers. So that's how you can do some like really easy SEO uplifts and get to the top of Google with that really feature-rich snippet, if you will. Well, thanks for sharing, Brian. I hope that was valuable for y'all. If you have any questions on it, send me an email, brady@carrot.com. Love to hear your thoughts. If you're doing anything really interesting with AI or with SEO, we'd love to hear about it. And maybe we'll do one of these in a few more months once things have done a 180 with AI and see how fast it keeps moving. It's crazy. All right. Well, thank you, Brian. And thanks everybody for listening. Make sure to share the podcast. Tell a friend about it if you got value out of this. And head on over to carrot.com/SEO to get all our awesome SEO resources for this month. That's it. We will see y'all next week.